it would be the captain or the coach. So before we go out, we've been suggesting, I'm open to some ideas, we've been suggesting that we know who the second in command is, as it were. So if we're going out for a training and Heather's coaching, then most likely it would be Heather that would make the call. If Heather wasn't there and Robin wasn't on the boat, then it would be Robin. And if neither of those two were on the boat, then each time we go out, we need to identify who the second in command is. This is a bit theoretical at the moment for some of it. Firstly, of course, one person needs to be in charge. So that's exactly as we've just talked about. If the sweep, first thing you want to do is stabilise the boat. How do we stabilise the boat?
Paddles flat.
Paddles flat. If the sweep is able to return to the boat, it's normal training, they've just fallen over here, they can just swim back and climb back on with this. If they can't, which I'll demonstrate in a moment, if they can't swim back to the boat immediately, then the person in charge might, or maybe I'm not going to demonstrate this one. This thing is theoretically how the sweep climbs back onto the boat. This is just a foot step, just to help the sweep get back on. If the sweep is quite a way away and needs some help, then we have this throw rope. So you will have all seen this throw rope on board and wonder what that's for. So the throw rope, this is a rope in a bag. That's all it is. And the beauty of the rope in the bag is that provides a weight. So that's actually, even if you're a really terrible thrower, you can throw it quite easily. It's a nice slippery rope. You just unclip it here. There's a loop on the end of the rope. Stick your hand through or hold on to it, however. Don't get caught up in how to hold on to the rope, but just make sure you don't let go of it. Loosen off the top of the bag, get your thumb in there. And I'm a great thrower. And it goes out beautifully. Throw out to somebody who's in the water and can then just grab hold of it and has the time to pull themselves in. Pull them in, and then they'll climb up on there. If the sweep can't get back to the boat, floating off into the distance in their life jacket, then that's another story. So either there'll be somebody on the boat who may be able to take on the sweep oar, and the person in charge will make the call as to what to do. So basically you just need to follow the instructions of the person in charge. Same again, don't panic, don't make things worse, keep the boat stable, follow the instructions of the person in charge. Don't jump in and try and save the sweep if they're miles away, because then you'll just endanger yourself and we're another person to try and rescue. It's not necessarily a rescue, the sweep should be fine. We should be fine and our life jackets floating off to somewhere. But you just keep the boat safe.
If there's 9 rows paddling, that someone is actually doesn't take their eyes off where the sweep is.
Great idea. In that case, then if you can't get the boat back to the sweep, then you'll be wanting to call for some help. That gets us to our communications devices. So we should have 2 means of communication on the boat. That might be two phones. The sweep always has a phone, and if we're going to Matakana or outside of our normal training area, and I always have it anyway, is that we have a VHF radio with us. So, and usually there's somebody else with a phone to take photos. And with our radio, in our dry bags, there's a little laminated sheet here, which will be in each of the sweep's dry bags, which gives you the instructions for calling the Coast Guard. Okay, so in a high pressure nervous situation, it's always hard, I know from experience, to remember what to say to the Coast Guard. So pull this out and just read it, and just follow the instructions. If you're not familiar with using a VHF radio, just have a look through this so that you know what it is. And in the worst case scenario, if you can get the radio to work, they'll listen to you. All VHF radios are pretty much the same. This is my own one, so it's a bit different to some of the others. It looks different, it's a different colour. But otherwise it's the same. They all just have an on button. Mine automatically, most of them will automatically set to channel 16, which is the emergency channel. You can use channel 16 if it's an emergency. Otherwise we normally have it set to channel 1. This just has a up and down button, which changes the channel. Channel 1 is the Coast Guard channel for Tauranga. So that's where you would hear some traffic coming from Coast Guard and Tauranga. Call them directly, and they're sitting over by the cafe where we have our morning coffees. When you talk, press this button on the side, talk, let it go when you finish, absolutely. So basically what you want to tell them is who you are, where you are, what your problem is. Then they'll come back and they'll ask you all the questions about people on board, what needs to happen next. The checklist of safety equipment that we should be looking at each time before we go out on the water. It's the ultimate responsibility of the suite, but really helpful if everyone is aware of it and just does a little check, run through it each time we go out. So we've got the phone, the radio, thermal blanket in the dry bag. It's something that we're going to have in standard in our dry bags. Throw rope, so we always have the throw rope. Always should have 2 bailers, and this is something that Rob has been talking about a little bit more. We should have one at the front and one at the back attached with rubber. That's because of the boat. If we go over, at the moment all our bailers are loose and they would have all floated away. So the idea of actually bailing out the boat is moot. So moving forward, and I did that down here, it's just a quick release knot on the end, half bow, and they're here on rubber so that if the boat tips over and we come back up, we've got 2 bailers to use to empty it out. And the final thing is the light. I don't know how to put it on, but Wendy does. So if we're doing any paddling at night, then we need an all-round white light. This is our all-round white light that belongs to the club. Wendy will demonstrate the deployment. Oh, turn it on first. And there are headlamps, I understand, in the shed. I think it's really easy to be blasé about the buddy and the numbering thing. And it's only when it comes to an emergency that those things, it's so simple, but can just make such a big difference. They'll literally be the difference between life and death if you've got somebody who's lost and just needed to be pulled out from under the boat.
If we do capsize and we're under the boat, I mean, besides not panicking and not putting our life jackets, is there anything that we should particularly do? Should we stay there or?
No, you just get yourself out. Yeah. And I mean, I think that through. I mean, my suggestion would be to think that through now in your mind. What would I do if this flipped over and I was underneath it? What would I need to do? I need to feel for the side of the boat and then just pull myself up and out. Just literally think through what you would do. You might have to stand on your head in there to test it out. But you would just feel for the side of the boat and you know that you just got to slide out and come out up under it. Don't wait there to be rescued for someone else to decide that you're not there. Think about where you were sitting, come underneath and start having a look. Best to be self-sufficient.
If we have a medical emergency on board the boat, there's a few things that we do to mitigate this situation, and that is to keep a list of first aiders. I actually have that list and I haven't sort of shared that around, so just chatting with Anna this morning, we thought maybe that's something, as we're leaving the jetty each training, we identify who on board is a first aider, just so that we know at the top of a hat we have got a first aider on board and also who they are and where they're sitting. The other thing which we have addressed this morning is making sure that we do have our medical forms in the shed and updated for everybody. The other thing was to identify an emergency signal that is used and make sure that everyone is familiar with that. So when we go to nationals or any major competitions, there is an emergency signal that we use on board the boat to indicate medical emergency. Do people know what that is? correct. So it's the crossed hands above the head, and that should alert rescue crews and the rest of your team that there is someone near you having a medical emergency. I would expect someone to alert the caller during a race. If we were out training and someone at the front of the boat had a medical emergency, it might be just a quick way to alert the back of the boat that something's going on up front. The other thing we just need to make sure of is that we do have that 2 forms of communication on the boat, at least 2 forms of communication, just in case we can't get cell phone reception or the UHF is not working for whatever reason. So in the event of a medical emergency, we would nominate someone to ring emergency services, probably someone near the back seat because they are near the sweep, and this actually allows the sweep to remain in control of the boat and focus on keeping everyone else safe and getting us back to shore. So we might relay to Anna that services need to be called. She will say to the person in front of her, here's the radio, here's the phone, you call the services while I get the boat travelling towards shore. So wherever possible, and this is not always going to be possible, depending on conditions, depending on how close to the shore we are, but wherever possible we would attempt to move first aiders on the boat to the patient. If it's just to support them if they're semi-conscious, or if it's just to assist with their emotional welfare while we get them to shore. So if it's a safe scenario, that is what we would try and do. So the sweep controls the boat and instructs those not attending the patient on what to do to get us to the shore as quick as possible, because at the end of the day that is what we need to do. We need to get to shore. We have had discussions on the boat about if we had to perform CPR on the boat, could we do it, and really we can't. There is no flat surface. We would destabilise the boat, potentially put the rest of us at risk as well. So the safest thing to do is just to get back to shore. And again, I can't say this often enough, but everyone just needs to remain calm and quiet. There's always that temptation to, you have a good idea, so you want that to be heard, and before you know it, you've got 10 people shouting out instructions, and that actually doesn't help any situation. So the main thing is to remain calm and quiet, allow those first aiders to attend the patient if they can safely, and listen for instructions from the sweep, and proceed to shore as quickly and as safely as we possibly can.